Aloha everybody, my name is Charles and this is the Hawaii Hurricane Watch Report for Hurricane Douglas, July 24th, 2020, 5 p.m. Advisory Edition. In the first part of the report, I will cover the 5 p.m. advisory posted by the National Hurricane Center. In the second part of the report, I will be discussing the factors that tend to control both the movement and intensity of a hurricane system, such as Douglas. Now to begin the report, we'll take a look at the National Hurricane Center's 5 p.m. advisory. At 5 p.m. Hawaii Standard Time, the center of Hurricane Douglas was located near latitude 17.9 north, longitude 145.1 west. Douglas is still currently moving towards the west-northwest, but its speed has increased to nearly 20 miles per hour or 31 kilometers per hour. This motion is expected to continue through Saturday, however, followed by a slight decrease in forward speed and a potential turn towards the west. Based on the forecast, Douglas will be near the main Hawaiian Islands Saturday night through Sunday night. In yesterday's 5 p.m. advisory, the max sustained winds of Hurricane Douglas were about 130 miles per hour. However, in tonight's 5 p.m. advisory, the maximum sustained winds are down to 115 miles per hour or 185 kilometers per hour with higher gust. Douglas has been downgraded to a Category 3 hurricane and is expected to gradually weaken as it continues through the weekend. However, Douglas is still forecasted to be near hurricane strength when it nears the Hawaii Islands. Hurricane force winds continue to extend outward up to 25 miles or 35 kilometers from the center of the hurricane, while tropical storm force winds extend outward up to 105 miles or 165 kilometers from the center. The estimated minimum central pressure is 967 millibars or 28.56 inches. The National Hurricane Center has also issued hurricane watches for the following locations. A hurricane watch is in effect for Hawaii County, Maui County, including the islands of Maui, Lanai, Molokai, and Oahu. A hurricane watch means that hurricane conditions are possible within the watch area, in this case within 36 to 48 hours. Wrapping up the advisory portion of the report, hurricane conditions are possible on the Big Island late Saturday night and Sunday, with tropical storm conditions possible by Saturday evening. Hurricane conditions are also possible over Maui County Sunday, with tropical storm conditions possibly beginning late Saturday night. Hurricane conditions are also possible on Oahu Sunday night, with tropical storm conditions possible Sunday. Large swells generated by Douglas are expected to affect the Hawaiian Islands this weekend. These swells are likely to cause life-threatening surf and rip current conditions for a couple of days. While heavy rainfall associated with Douglas is expected to affect portions of the Hawaiian Islands from late Saturday night through Monday. Total rain accumulations of 6 to 10 inches with isolated maximum totals of 15 inches are possible, especially in higher terrain. This rain may result in life-threatening flash flood and landslides. That will do it for the July 24th, 2020, 5 p.m. Hurricane Douglas advisory. Now for the second part of the report. A lot of you watching probably already know that I am originally from Florida. However, for those that don't, I am originally from Florida, spent the majority of my life there, and I have seen numerous hurricanes, 2 or 3 a year, easily, some years even more. Point being is when it comes to hurricanes, I have actually studied the meteorology and the phenomena quite in depth and have learned quite a bit about hurricanes and what makes them tick. So in this second part of the report, we're going to discuss 3 main factors that govern both the organization, the intensification, and the movement of hurricane systems. Real quick, I'd like to point out that the following information is based on my understanding and interpretation of the scientific information governing hurricanes and my observational experience with the such. Now, moving on, the first thing we're going to discuss is the most important ingredient in any hurricane or tropical system, and that is going to be water temperature. In this graphic you see here, the current ocean temperatures measured in Celsius for the surrounding waters of the Hawaiian Islands. The water temperature is responsible not only for the beginning formations of hurricane systems or tropical systems, it is also a governor, a very big governor in the both intensification and weakening of a storm system. In the case of Hurricane Douglas, we saw it intensify yesterday while it was over the warmer temperatures of the ocean, which were around 27 degrees Celsius, I think is where it was. However, from 5 p.m. Yesterday evening to 5 p.m. today, the storm system did begin to move over the cooler water band, which is about 26 degrees Celsius, and seen there in the graphic pretty much right in the middle in the bright red, with the Hawaii Islands located to the left of it. Now, this is why they expected it to weaken, because they knew it was going to pass over that cooler water. And when hurricane systems do pass over bands of cooler water, we do see a weakening in the system because it is a lower energy exchange rate between the water surface and the cyclonic nature of the storm. Basically, it's the evaporating water that creates a convection current that ultimately gets the storm going. And then when that storm gets going, it acts as its own feedback loop and begins sucking in more and more water vapor, creating bigger and bigger cloud tops, tightening the eye wall. It organizes and gets stronger. So ultimately with Hurricane Douglas and the water temperatures is that I know from this point on and into the next few days, the hurricane is going to move over warmer water as it approaches the Hawaiian Islands. So that's why they are expecting it to be near hurricane strength as it gets here, which based on its forward momentum, which is pretty fast right now, it would be difficult to see any intensification as it approached the islands unless that momentum slowed down, which would give it time to basically pull in more energy and intensify over that warmer band of water around the islands itself. So basically the intensity of a storm is governed by the surface temperature of the water that it's over. However, its movement or the speed in which it is moving across the surface can also play a factor. The longer it spins over warmer water, the stronger it can get. And most storms tend to curve northerly and move into cooler waters, which causes them to fizzle out. Which leads us into the second aspect of a hurricane, the motion and directions in which it moves. What controls that? What pretty much controls the movement of a hurricane is the high and low pressure air systems that surround it. General rule of thumb, a high pressure air system will ultimately block or deflect a low pressure hurricane system, because that's what a hurricane is. It's actually a low pressure system. And low pressure areas tend to pull them in or act kind of like a magnet in a way. So ultimately, when the storm is over open ocean water, it is pretty much high and low pressure air systems that control the direction. In the case of Douglas here, we're looking at a high pressure ridge, which is why if you've listened to other reports, you've heard them talk about the high pressure ridge and the building ridge next to it that ultimately is going to cause the system to turn west. That's because that high pressure ridge, which we are looking at in the graphic here, is acting as a block. It's keeping the storm from moving northward. However, if that ridge system was to move northward or even eastward, opening up, well, a low pressure gap that the storm could slip in, we would see a more northerly turn of the storm system with it being over open water. However, if that high pressure system moves further south or another system, high pressure, develops to the left of that ridge, it could act as a continuing blocking ridge system, which could push the storm further to the west in its motion. Now, another factor that does play in the movement of hurricane systems is land masses. In Florida, land mass and air pressure systems were pretty much equal partners in governing the direction and movement of storms. Here in Hawaii Islands, we have a lot of open ocean, obviously, so it's mostly just air pressure systems that govern the direction and movements and the tracks of hurricane systems. However, as it approaches the Hawaiian Islands, the landmass does have a significant effect. I saw this with Hurricane Iselle. As Hurricane Iselle came inland, the mountain literally split the storm in half, with the main body of the storm traveling south, the eye of the storm traveling south around the mountain, while a lot of its energy was sheared off and it traveled northly, the northern route around the mountain. But when it got back to the other side, it kind of came back together, but it never really fully reorganized. With Hurricane Douglas, if it was to hit the island like Iselle did, I would expect to see the same thing. In this case, though, as it's approaching the island from the north, we have those winds coming around, and they're going to be slapping into the slopes of the mountains, which could give a slight northerly nudge to the storm, because I've seen historical tracks of storms around the Big Island, and they either tend to swoop off to the north or swoop off to the south of the island, but they very rarely make landfall on Hawaii Island. I think Iselle was the first one in written meteorological history to actually have made landfall. So the island chain itself will have some impact on the direction or the movement of this hurricane, and in the way that it's coming in, I think that could be a slight nudge to the north, but because it's much more north of Hawaii Island, current track anyways, I don't think the land masses of Maui or Oahu or even Kauai are going to have a huge effect on that. I think in this particular case, it will be the air pressure systems that will be the main governor in what direction this hurricane takes. So there you have it. Those are the basics that govern hurricanes. It's the ocean temperature, the air pressure systems, and the land masses that it interacts with. Just to summarize it and put it in a simple little nutshell, so to speak. There are a lot more factors going into the energy convection and things of that nature, but that's a little, too deep for what I want to present here. So I do appreciate y'all watching. Don't forget to check out my merch. Links are in the description. I got some cool face masks available. But that will do it for this edition of the Hawaii Hurricane Watch Report. Mahalo for watching, and you have an amazing morning, afternoon, or evening.